What is going on, guys? How are you all doing today? It is absolutely beautiful outside, so I decided that it was a good idea to sit inside and record a video. So yeah, we have part 2 of Spider-Man the Other, and we actually ended part 1 with Peter finding out that there's something wrong with him. Now, of course, we're going to figure out what's wrong with him as we get further into the series, but we are only on part 2, and there are 12 parts to the series, so I'm going to try and get those reviews out as fast as possible, so that we can understand this story completely. And yeah, so moving on to this issue is more based around Mary Jane and how she's taking Peter Parker being Spider-Man and how she's dealing with the problems of worrying about him and being Spider-Man's wife, etc. So we're going to see a lot more of MJ in this comic, and yeah, so guys, let's get into the comic and find out what's going on. Alright, so this issue kicks off with pretty much what I've just been talking about, with Mary Jane trying to cope with being Spider-Man's wife and all of the drama that comes with that, and everywhere she turns, in the newspapers, on TV, there's always some kind of new drama or horror going on with Spider-Man, and that's exactly what she's trying to cope with, that she's always worrying about Peter Parker, what's going on in his life and how she doesn't understand why he does the things that he does, and you could kind of say that it's affecting her job a little bit, or at least affecting her mood in general. And as you can see, we actually have a bit of a flashback sequence to how Captain America was actually training Peter Parker. Oh, wait a minute, I think I just remembered. It's actually Peter and Mary Jane living at Avengers Tower or something like that, if I remember. But yeah, so anyway, going back to the comic, Mary Jane is questioning why Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man all do these things without ever being paid for it, and it's not the job, and they kind of do it out of the goodness of the heart, and she doesn't understand why, because they give up such a huge part of their lives in order to do so, and in the end they don't win, they get hurt, they lose people, and really they just chose the more difficult road to life instead of just taking a normal life and stuff like that. And Captain America basically says that it's similar to being a priest or a nun, where you've got like this higher purpose in life sort of thing, and you sometimes have to give up the things that you want most and stuff like that. Similar to how, you know, Spider-Man 2 with Aunt May, where she's like, sometimes you have to give up the things you want the most, and all that, so yeah. But anyway, going out of that flashback sequence, back to the present day with Mary Jane, as you can see, there's another thing on TV with Spider-Man, and this time he's actually battling it out with Tracer, you know, the villain from the previous issue that had the controllable bullets. Yeah, he's back. But as you can see, Mary Jane actually storms out of her work because her work colleagues are actually arguing about how much money the guy actually wants. And in case you didn't know, Mary Jane actually has a little bit of a stalker fan. You could see him at the beginning of the comic. He's actually been to 15 shows of hers in 1 week, and that's pretty crazy, that's pretty obsessed. And just then you could see Morlan interfering, pointing him in the direction to see which way Mary Jane actually went. And I kind of love this because Morlan just kind of pops in and then pops out and then pops back in again later on, causing mayhem but in his own time, if you get what I mean, which I think is really interesting. And as you can see on screen, Mary Jane has gone to a local bar and actually paid them to put the news on with the Spider-Man fight, and Spider-Man and Tracer are actually fighting each other, and then Iron Man just comes out of nowhere and starts attacking Peter. Now, ever since Spider-Man's been told that he's got something wrong with him, of course we don't know what it is yet, but his powers are kind of playing up a bit, like he can't calculate how far he's got to jump properly, he's slipping down walls and stuff like that, and as you can see right now, he isn't actually strong enough to break free from Iron Man's grasp, and we later discover that it's Iron Man's armor that is playing up, it's not actually Iron Man fighting Peter. But anyway, going back to Mary Jane, her stalker fan has finally found her in this local bar, which Morlan actually pointed him in the right direction to go in, and he insists on buying her a drink, and when she refuses, he actually grabs her hand and demands that she takes a drink with him, and the barman actually says no, and the guy actually pulls out a gun, and this is where you kind of get those psycho fans where they kind of think that they own you and stuff like that. And as you can see, a gun is a pretty terrifying thing, but not for Mary Jane, because she just goes hammerlam on this guy. Now what you've got to remember is that Mary Jane is Spider-Man's wife. She has to go through some pretty dark stuff to become fearless in the face of a guy with a gun. And she also actually lives in the Avengers Tower, so I imagine that she's got a little bit of combat training, probably from Captain America. Maybe she has, maybe she hasn't, I don't know, but yeah, she's pretty handy with a snooker cue, so yeah. But either way, the guy is down and out, he is no longer a threat, and they actually go back to the news where Spider-Man or Iron Man somehow manage to get the bomb away, but they're not entirely sure whether Spider-Man's dead or whether Iron Man's dead or whether the villain's been captured or what. So it's a little bit crazy right now, but Mary Jane actually runs back and tries to get a taxi back to wherever she's living, aka the Avengers Tower. I think it's the Avengers Tower, so yeah. But she actually calls for a taxi and it doesn't stop, and then Morlun just appears out of nowhere again and actually stops the taxi. And again, that's what I like about Morlun actually just popping in and popping out, and it's really interesting how he's kind of affecting Peter's life without actually doing anything yet. I mean, he's even talking to Mary Jane himself, which is interesting to see. But anyway, we now go over to Peter Parker and Mary Jane talking in their apartment room. Well, is it an apartment? Do they have apartments in the Avengers Tower? I have no idea, but either way, they're in the room and they're discussing what's going on with Peter and how he keeps risking his luck and how he's getting a little bit sloppy with being Spider-Man. Like, he's not making the correct jumps, he's always getting hit, he's not being careful enough, and Mary Jane thinks that he's actually pushing his luck a little bit too far and he actually wants to die. Now, Peter actually ends the conversation by saying, "No, it's ever since I got this, there's bigger things at play here," and she actually gives him a massive hug. And it kind of ends there. We still need to find out what is going on with Peter, but of course it must be something really serious if MJ is actually just going to drop what she's just said and then give Peter a hug straight away. I mean, I suppose it's similar to getting like a terminal illness or something like that. I mean, especially if you're being told that you're probably going to die. That's pretty dark. So yeah, anyway guys, what did you think of this issue? What do you think of Spider-Man the Other Evolve or Die so far? I mean, we're only on part 2 and there are 12 parts to get through, so I'm going to try and get those out as fast as I can. But what you've got to remember is that there are other series coming out every week, like Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Woman, The Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, and because of all these series that I'm reviewing, it is hard to try and fit this in as well, but I will try and get this out as fast as possible. But until then guys, go to the link in the description, go to my Facebook page because I have just previewed Spider-Man 2099 issue 10, Spider-Gwen issue 2 and Miles Morales The Ultimate Spider-Man issue 11, and of course there's a lot more where that came from with The Amazing Spider-Man issue 16, so make sure you go to my Facebook page, link is in the description, go and check those out, make sure you hit the like button on my Facebook page, and of course, don't forget to hit the like button on this video and hit the subscribe button. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10, and yeah, so guys, I will see you in my next video.
Let me hear the fucking bass!